2025, 700 paratroopers will jump from planes over the Netherlands today, marking the 80th anniversary of one of the most daring operations of the Second World War.
Operation Market Garden was the largest airborne assault in history. It involved 1,900 soldiers. Our correspondent Anna Holligan is there to watch the commemorations. And Anna, morning to you. It looks like a glorious morning there, kind of fitting when you're paying tribute to what has been done.
Exactly, but also makes it so difficult to imagine just how different it would have been 80 years ago. So I have some help on hand. Murray, who is an absolute expert in this field, and James Holland, of course. How different would this area, Ginkel Heath, have been during Operation Market Garden? This was the scene of some of the bloodiest battles of the Second World War.
Well, yes, so this is DZY, the Ginkel Heath. It's 9 miles from the Arnhem Bridge, and when the second lift arrived on the Monday, the 18th of September, in the afternoon, the drop zone itself, this space here, this heath, was contested. So the Germans are in the woods over there. The King's Own Scottish Borders are forcing them out with a bayonet charge, and the heath is on fire as the aircraft come in low and slow to drop their paratroopers. 2,000 or so men landing here, with this drama playing out on the drop zone. Extraordinary.
And just to explain to you, if you're not as familiar as Ali is with Operation Market Garden, this was an Allied effort to try and break through so the airborne forces would drop behind enemy lines into the occupied Netherlands. And the idea was that the ground forces would come up from Normandy after the D-Day landings. They would try to secure the bridges and find a kind of back route into Germany. And James Holland, does it surprise you that we still see, 100,000 people turned out here to commemorate what was, some would say, a historic failure?
Yeah, it's absolutely remarkable, and there is nowhere anywhere in the world like Nijmegen and Arnhem for commemorating a particular episode of the Second World War. I think it's absolutely remarkable. And if you go into Arnhem, you just see the airborne flags, the maroon and blue with the Pegasus on it, fluttering from literally every other house. And it is extraordinary because what happened afterwards was that after the battle was over, the town was left in ruins, and it wasn't until April 1945 that they were finally liberated. But what they're commemorating is the attempt to liberate them, the loss of life on the part of the British soldiers that were involved. And it's just incredible. It is absolutely remarkable. And how wonderful it is that 100,000 people can come out today on a beautiful September day, 80 years on, think about what happened all those years ago, but do so in such perfect peace.
Al, is 88 British paratroopers we're waiting for. They're scheduled to jump in. They're on their way. Okay, we may just capture. What does it mean for the British to take part in an event like this?
Well, I think this is the battle is famous for the men enduring and holding on against great odds, and I think it's fair to say very often the British, we gravitate towards our great defeats sometimes as a thing to sort of identify with, possibly, and I think this has all of that and incredible drama, and this drama of arriving from the sky. It's the most extraordinary thing. And here comes the first guy. Look at it. Out they come. And
so I think I just heard that these are German.
So these are Germans, okay. But look, here's the next aircraft coming right on top of them,
and in round ones as well, which is what they would have used in the war.
Well, yeah, these are modern rounds, but the parachute's pulled open as you jump out by a static line, so it's attached to the aircraft, which pulls it out. Then you have to check that the canopy's open properly, check your rigging lines.
You know what you're talking about, because you did this jump.
I did do this
20 years ago.
20 years ago, and landed very heavily on my bottom, which is an occupational hazard for this. And then I got dragged through the heather by the chute. But here they come, and the idea is you get them out of the aircraft as quickly as you possibly can, so they can land, gather themselves up, and go and do what they've got to do.
We have many VIP guests, but the biggest round of applause so far this morning has been for the 10 veterans who are in attendance. And that's what makes this even more remarkable, that this reenactment is taking part at a time where we still have those who were involved in Operation Market Garden present among us to experience it alongside us, James.
Well, yes, and they're treated like rock stars and royalty, aren't they? And quite right. And it's because they're so few in number now that they're so precious. And we want to hold on to them because for so many of us, we've lived with that incredible generation for, all our lives. And suddenly they're slipping away. That age is going to pass. And we don't want to let that happen. It's going to be very traumatic when the last veteran of the Second World War passes. But so, yes, and quite rightly, I think we do sort of treat them with the respect that they are owed. But also, yeah, it's because they're so precious and rare these days. I mean, you know, most of them 100 years at least.
And what a sight! I mean,
I was just going to say, let's just Martin, the cameraman, if we could just show these paratroopers falling from the sky. 80 years ago, the Allied forces would have been falling into enemy fire.
Yes, well, Arnhem at the time was 60 miles behind enemy lines. The 1st Airborne Division and then the 1st Polish Parachute Independent Brigade also land here. They land south of the river. But more than 10,000 people are landed up here, 60 miles behind enemy lines. The audacity of it is quite extraordinary. And to see these guys, and what this will mean to these men doing this on this site, I run out of words when I'm watching this sort of thing because it's so extraordinary to see and really evocative of what happened.
You can really feel the history beneath our feet, can't you?
You absolutely can, but I think it's also worth noting that Operation Market Garden gets a very, very bad press and has had a bad press from historians. But you know what, I think it was worth the punt, that's my own view. I think it was, because had it worked, I think the war probably would have been over in Europe before Christmas. There was an Allied airborne army of 3 divisions of airborne troops, American and British, waiting back in Britain to be deployed. Yep. And it could have worked, it should have worked. Some wrong decisions were made on the ground once they were here and in the planning.
Are they? I mean, I don't know. They're red parachutes. Maybe they're the Red Devils. I don't have a manifest of everyone who's jumping up.
But one of the problems is having Ginkel Heath, which is so far out of Arnhem.
This aircraft, they were jumping out of either side of the plane so they could get out as quickly as possible. And what happens is the guy coming, you have to jump in time so the guy coming out doesn't kick you in the face as they come past, because they.
And then they have to steer to keep away from each other. It's just so majestic watching this, and it's a salute to the paratroopers who gave their lives for our freedom. And that's something that you're so conscious of when you speak to the Dutch people who've gathered here, who live around what was a battle zone. So ferocious was the fighting. The British called this the Devil's Cauldron, and yet here we are standing in the sunshine. It couldn't feel more tranquil.
Well, it couldn't feel more tranquil, you know, and there's hot dogs and 1940s music and the sort of the freedom that, you know, as they would say here, the liberation, the freedom that these people fought for. So
exactly that. That's why they were fighting. Is so that we can, 80 years on, we can still 80 years on be enjoying the peace and living in a democracies here in Europe, and we can move around and we can go and have beers down in the centre of Arnhem and enjoy ourselves and do whatever we want to do. I mean, that was the whole point of fighting against the forces of tyranny back then.
Thank you for the insight. James Holland, Murray, Naga, Charlie, back to you guys from Ginkel Heath and the paratroopers dropping down to commemorate Operation Market Garden.
It's been lovely to witness it. Anna, maybe your camera person can give us a shot once more of those coming down as we see them.
One more shot
there
over
we
there,
go.
please, Martin.
Oh, they're in the back. Oh, they're all down. They're all down. OK, so we saw 700 paratroopers from 8 NATO nations jumping from 12 aircraft. Yeah. It was quite a sight, wasn't it?
And as they were saying on the ground there, in amongst those watching, some out of curiosity and marking that moment, were veterans who made the jump themselves. And you can only imagine what it meant to those people seeing that reenactment today, 80 years on.
Taking them right back, those memories. The time is 9:34. We're with you until 10 o'clock, of course, on BBC One.